For my SL hours, I decided to help a professor as a teaching assistant, trying to bridge the gap between students and teachers by encouraging those who needed help to ask questions and further their knowledge so that they would be able to be successful in the course and for later life.
The program that I volunteered for was the UCF Psychology Department, in which I was a teaching assistant. My duties as a teaching assistant included helping the professor run the day-to-day operations of the classroom, as well as keep everyone in touch with the professor, forwarding emails, helping with study guides, or providing any questions to students that I could answer. The professor with whom I had done my hours was a very knowledgeable older gentleman that was always encouraging of questions. In fact, he regularly stopped the class to ask whether any student had a question. However, during my time in the classroom, I realized that not every student feels comfortable asking questions in front of the entire classroom. And so another part of my duty was to address this through email or scheduling office hours with the professor. This all ties into our third and fifth chapter of Cross-Cultural Psychology textbook, as we learned about cultural biases in regarding studying and test taking. It was said within the literature that immigrants first coming into America often scored far lower on IQ tests, and this harbored the question to me, why would that be? After doing much more research on the matter, I have found one common denominator as to why minority groups seem to struggle with certain material, and that was the comprehension and sometimes even language barrier, as well as socio-norms. These norms to many people was the difference as to if they would ask questions or not, as in some cultures it was disrespectful to ask those questions or interject themselves in the middle of a lecture. With this new information gathered in first-hand experience within the classroom, I do not believe all of what was previously thought of research within Chapter 5. I do not believe that any minority group is weaker cognitively than anyone else. I think that the main differentiating factor here is the willingness to ask and the willingness to get help. The opportunities are there. Everyone is treated equally, and it is encouraged for you to come and see the professor if you're not performing well, as I know it is for every other class that I have been in. It has oftentimes been the case that a student performed poorly on the first test, but redeemed themselves in the following tests as they came in to talk to the professor and find their abilities, their strengths, their weaknesses, and how to best attack the next test. And so this harbors the question, what did I take away from this experience that I previously didn't have? And that is guidance. I always knew that I had wanted to get a PhD or an MD, and I always thought that I was going to work in a hospital environment, but that's changed now. From the moment I stepped in front of the auditorium and was given the ability to speak in front of all the people, I knew that teaching was what I had wanted to do with my life. I believe in education wholeheartedly, but I also know that with education, there's always a good professor, there's always a professor that you know to avoid. I believe that everyone, as said previously, should be given the same chances, the same quality of education, and I think that that's something that needs to be worked on a little bit. I think there should be a good balance between online components, in-class work, tests, quizzes, and of course there's a lot of ideas to be had. I believe that through this experience, I was given the information that will lead me to success and will eventually lead me to have a classroom environment that will be successful.